Welcome everybody. I am with Tom here in Brighton at the TM Centre. Tom has kindly come all the way down from Wandsworth to talk all things TM. So let's get going. How did you get into TM? How did you find out about it?
We're going back about 10 years now, when I first discovered meditation in general and mindfulness. I've had a long history of anxiety and depression. Luckily nowadays it's a lot more well managed thanks to TM, and I was intrigued. I was sick of my mind and I just wanted to find ways to, well, firstly just to escape from it, and then I guess if that inevitably doesn't happen, then how to manage it. So I've been practicing meditation and mindfulness for about 10 years now. Over the past 5 years I've been teaching meditation to various people who deal with complex mental health needs, and that was a way of helping them just take it a little bit easier and just try and find some sort of peace in their lives. I think throughout that whole time, both practicing it and teaching it, it wasn't really, I'm talking about the sort of basic meditation here, breathing meditation, apps such as Headspace and that sort of thing. It wasn't really doing a lot for me. And I thought, well, if I'm not finding the, hang on. I was practicing meditation and mindfulness and then teaching it. And I thought to myself, if I'm not finding any benefit from it, then God knows what these students are thinking as well. I sort of had a turning point in my life a couple of years ago, and miraculously I was targeted on Facebook with a TM ad, and I was like, okay, well, what is this? How is this different to what I've already been doing? I'm intrigued. So it was really like the beauty and the beauty of social media that led me to discover TM. I'd never really heard of it before that, and I signed up to an introduction session with Charles in London, and I think at the time I wasn't really listening to what he was saying, but I was very acutely aware of his energy, and he has bundles of it, and I thought, I want that. I want to have this first for life and to be in the present moment. And it was first detecting that energy and then adding the words to it and then finding out more about what TM was. So then it was a no-brainer really, and I signed up to the course. And the more I was learning about TM and practicing it, the more I was just so enamored by it, and that feeling has only grown over the past year and a half I've been practicing it. So that's what's led me to here today, in that just trying to find, I've always loved meditation and mindfulness. I think meditation in particular, I just hadn't found the one for me until TM came along.
And what was the difference? So from what I understood, you have been meditating in some form for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Related to your job. What is your job, by the way?
So right now I'm a content and communications manager at a youth charity, The Mix. It's a little bit different to what I've been used to. Way back about 5-6 years ago, I was working on the front line in the mental health sector. So as I said, I was working with people who deal with complex mental health issues. So that could be schizophrenia, bipolar, or multiple diagnosis, dual diagnosis. So that could be anxiety and chronic depression. So using meditation as a way to alleviate those feelings and sort of lighten, hopefully bring some sort of clarity and some peace to their really busy minds. Recently, I actually, thanks to TM, I was seeking a bit more of a creative role. I'd never really tapped into, I always thought I was creative, I just didn't feel like I was worthy of doing that as a job. I think TM actually is really good at sort of telling my mind off and saying, no, don't think that. You are, and even if you're not, you might as well try. It gives me the confidence. So yeah, I think about maybe 6 months after I was practicing TM, I thought, well, I want to work more in the mental health sector. I want to continue working in the mental health sector, but I want to sort of get these creative gears working as well. So now I'm a writer and a podcast host for a youth mental health charity, which has always been the dream job. I've always wanted to help people, but I've always wanted to flex those creative muscles as well. And TM has really helped me get to that dream job. And it's not even a dream now, because it's reality, and it's great. It's great.
And so when you were doing the other meditations beforehand, did they do something for you?
I think
Because 9 years is a long time to have been practicing something.
Seems like a waste of time.
Well, no, I'm just curious. There must have been something in it. I'm trying to establish without, because I believe that, there's lots of different techniques out there, and people will just find the one that works for them at that time. So there's no sort of better or best or anything. It's just the one that is sort of suitable for you at that time. How would is it possible for you to say how TM is different from those other ones that you were doing?
I think with breathing meditation, and I wouldn't say basic level of meditation, because you can really find benefit in meditation that's introduced via Headspace or YouTube videos and those guided meditations. I think they're great, but for me, I don't know if my mind works a little bit differently. I always felt like that was very surface level. It would help me at the time. As I said, I've always struggled with anxiety, and breathing meditation and just taking maybe 10 minutes to go on YouTube or an app and meditate, it brings those feelings down. But I knew there was a lot more potential from meditation, and until TM, I didn't know how to tap into that. So not only does TM do all the things that other meditations have done for me, but as I said, it's tapped into that creative space in me, and it's made me be more reflective of life, and not only just deal with the anxiety at the time, but it allows me the time and space to really think curiously about where this anxiety has come from. And I get to see that anxiety. It doesn't overwhelm me. I get to be with it, thanks to TM. I get to think, oh, okay, feeling a bit anxious today. I wonder where that's come from. Today, like doing the interview, I was feeling anxious, feeling nervous. It was in my head the whole time walking here. And it was a long walk. And I barely talked to my girlfriend.
Minutes.
20 minutes. 20 minutes feels like 2 hours when you're in your head. And like my girlfriend can vouch for this. I barely said a word on the train here. I was just running thoughts. No, yeah. But instead of just running away with those thoughts and feelings now, all right, yeah, maybe my girlfriend probably expected a bit more of a conversation on the train, but me personally, I was able to look at those thoughts coming up on the train and on the way here, and see it like, these are thoughts and feelings, but they're not me. I'm that awareness that is actually watching these thoughts and feelings come up, and that has helped me to no end in dealing with anxiety. And I'm I think I'm in a really good position now. I don't think a year or so ago I could have done this interview due to my anxiety. And it's still there. It's right here now. Say hello, anxiety. But it's there.
Hi.
But it's staying there. It's not bothering me. It's like a roommate that you don't really want to live with, but you're gonna have to put up with them, and you have to work out ways to just, manage that. That's what it is. It's just something inside of me. TM has helped me see that and not get consumed by whatever is coming up and taking me away from this present time, this consciousness.
This is really interesting. You speak really clearly. It's very lucid what you say. So thank you. I have two questions. Yeah. I'll probably forget the second one. The first one is, how do you think TM does that? All those that quite profound difference, the depth and the from what I hear is the ability to not be completely consumed by it. So there's a sort of a distance, as it were.
Yeah.
How do you think it does that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think it all comes down to the mantra, which obviously differs from other types of meditation, especially breathing meditation. I remember when I was learning TM, and Charles, my teacher, said the mantra is a vehicle which will help you get to that inner space and consciousness and be able to see your thoughts and feelings more clearly. And that's always stuck with me. I can't do that with the breathing meditation, okay? Because I think your mind is always going to have thoughts. You can't stop that. But it has a life of its own. With the breathing meditation, you recognize those thoughts come up, but they just keep coming up. For me anyway, they just keep coming up and coming up and coming up. It's getting increasingly hard to focus on my breath. With the mantra, you're giving your mind a toy to play with. You're saying, mind, just go and play a PlayStation for a while. And then once your mind is preoccupied with the mantra, I'm now able to not create that space, because that space, I think, is already in you. It just gives you a chance to get reacquainted with it. And the more you get reacquainted with that space, rather than being distracted by your thoughts, you're able to see your thoughts more objectively, and you're just taking a break for yourself and not getting carried away with thoughts because your mind is playing the PlayStation.
So it's almost like the first word that comes to mind is a distraction, but it's not really a distraction, because that sounds like a kind of activity or even a decoy. But I understand what you're saying. And I love what you say about the fact that the space has always been there, because that makes sense to me, that if one does have, for whatever reason, overwhelming thoughts of whatever the quality is, then you feel like that's all there is. And then once that distance can come, no, it's not the distance, is it? It's almost like turning down the temperature of the chitter chatter, and then you kind of, something gets revealed that was always there, which was that space. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree with what you said about distance. I think creating distance implies that we're trying to achieve something, whereas actually it's quite the opposite. You're letting go of something. I think that's a lot easier for your mind to grasp, and or you deep down to grasp, because you're just letting go of all of these layers of thoughts and feelings and really going back to what has always been in there, and that's that inner space. And it's just really beautiful. It's a really beautiful space, but it just gets clouded sometimes. TM, you can say it creates distance, but I prefer that TM sort of just, chisels down those layers so you can see what is truly there. And it's greater than any anxious thought or feeling or anything that you've gone through. It's always there. It's always there to tap into. It's something I couldn't do with other meditations, but TM easily got me there. And I'm not going to say that it's easy for everybody, and I've done a lot of work. I think the studying and learning about Maharishi and also different books away from TM, it's always that's helped as well. That's helped me get there. But I think the one thing that really is a blessing and a curse for TM and the practice of TM is how effortless it is. Because your mind is always trying to achieve something. With TM, it's completely the opposite. And I think your mind, for me personally, at the beginning, could not grasp that I need to do something that doesn't require any effort, to the point where I don't need even talking about doing meditation has an opposite effect, because you don't do a meditation, you don't even meditate, you just are. And it's still taken a while for my mind to get around that, but I've come a long way, I think.
You meant my second, it's good. The second, I remember my second question, which is, when you were talking about the anxiety, which is just something that's always been there, because it seems to me you can manage something, which means you're developing the capacity in some way to just deal with that thing. That's sort of, I would call that stage one. And then maybe stage two is actually, does that thing diminish? Have you found that the anxiety, the friend here, has become less rowdy, or is it just that you feel differently towards it?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the more you feel more impartial towards it, the more it diminishes. For most of my life, ever since I can remember, I've been trying to fight this anxiety, and that just never works out well, because that's what it loves. If you're creating conflict in yourself, you're deepening that anxiety, you're intensifying it. I think since meditating and learning more about TM and what this process is in general, it's helped me to just not even bother with the fights. Just let it be, and the less you pay attention to it, the more it does diminish. So I don't call it names anymore. I don't say, oh, why am I walking around with this anxiety? What? Oh God, I can't stand it. It's just like, just let it be. I think, with TM, you're growing more awareness, and you're growing, the more space you have inside you, which you grow from TM, the less room. Let me just try and word this correctly. I think the more space you grow through TM, the less it feels anxiety has taken up that space, because it's a huge space inside you, but when you're deep in anxiety, it just feels that is the space, but you're able to just expand that space, and anxiety is still there, but it's a very, very tiny part of it. Is that making sense?
No, that's good.
So?
Yeah,
You're looking at me very confused.
No, I was just thinking, because I'm always curious myself how TM does what it does. Because it is, someone described it to me as being deceptively simple, and I guess it's like a key. A key itself is a key, but it could open a door to something quite different and amazing. So I'm just curious, when you say, I'm trying to think of a metaphor. So you've got the anxiety, and when you're in a room with the anxiety, if the room is small, the anxiety is going to take up a lot of the space. Yeah. But if the room is big, then takes up less space. Is that what you
100%.
said?
I think a good analogy could be that you're hanging around with, trying to think of someone who's a big, famous, bulky, famous person.
Okay.
I was going to say Vin Diesel, but he's quite short, isn't he?
I don't know who's big.
Let's go for
the guy in the jungle films.
Oh, Rock. Yeah, The Rock.
The Rock.
Yeah. You got Dwayne Johnson. Now he's going to look huge. So let's say Dwayne Johnson's next role is Anxiety, starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's in a cupboard or a closet. He's going to look huge. I don't even know if he's going to fit in that cupboard. And that's basically anxiety. That's your mind. That's your space inside you, and all you can see is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. You can't see anything else in that cupboard. Let's say further on in the movie, you've got a scene where Dwayne Johnson is in the O2 arena, but it's just him, and he's in the middle of that arena, and you can barely see him. You know he's in there, playing anxiety, but you've got everything else to look at. You can marvel at the rest of the arena, and you just see Dwayne, you say hi, all right, anxiety, but then you're just captivated by everything else. That is basically what TM does. It changes Dwayne Johnson standing in a cupboard to Dwayne Johnson standing in the O2 arena. You're able to see the bigger picture. You've got all of this room inside you. Anxiety is still there, but it's a very minuscule part of the.
So, how do you think that happens? Like, how does the closet become VO2? So I mean, it can't become it, because it must. You're still a human, and so it's something changes in consciousness, whereby the container expands in scale. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that happens. I one of my metaphors I like is the idea of a camera. Like when you have a zoom lens, you can look at life close up, like macro, like is that the word, macro? A macro lens, where it's close up, and you can see the detail, but you only see a small part. Whereas if the lens zooms out, very wide angle, then you're looking through the same lens, but now you see a lot more. It's a bigger picture, zooming out. And of course both have their place. That's the thing. So to me, I mean, that's what TM did for me, is it kind of allowed that zoom lens to go more wide angle, to have the capacity to be wide angle, while still maintaining the capacity to zoom in if necessary. And I've always wondered how that happened. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think I spent too much time trying to figure that out.
Oh, maybe we don't bother. Just enjoy the result.
Yeah, well, that's what I think anyway. I think I was studying too much. I was reading too many books. I was like, what is this amazing thing? And the more I was trying to figure it out, less beautiful it got, less exciting. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. And then the less now, but TM also teaches you, well, for me anyway, not to think so much and not to try and work it out. Just let it be. So yeah, I completely see where you're coming from. I think when something beautiful like that happens to you, to give you that almost skill, that ability to like zoom in and zoom out at free will, you want to try and figure, how can I bottle this up? How does this work so I know it for next time? And if in fact, it has the opposite effect. The more you try and add some sense to it and some thought to it, the less real it gets, and maybe for me anyway, the less frequent it gets, because I'm back in my mind trying, oh god, this is amazing.
That's true. That's actually true. You're back in your mind trying to wonder. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So you've been meditating a year since learning with Charles. Yeah. When you first learnt, how quickly did you notice something?
I would say the first couple of weeks, at least. I think, firstly, it was not about TM itself. It was about giving me that opportunity to just take some time. I live, not so much anymore, but back in the day when I first started TM, I was leading quite a busy life. I felt like I had loads of plates to spin, and then TM gives you that opportunity to give yourself like that time in the morning and that time later on in the afternoon to just be with yourself, and that gave me a sense of peace. Again, quite surface level, but just having that time and just feeling like I have the license to give myself that time as well. I didn't think I deserved to give myself that time to just reset and just take time for myself. Then, I liked that feeling. I liked giving that time to myself. So then I was prioritizing it, making sure, and like to this day, apart from a couple of days I have practiced twice a day, 20 minutes each, and then just giving myself that peace every day. I just kept doing it. And then over the first 6 months, I was having brief glimpses of absolute, I think you call it bliss, you can call it like having no thoughts, or just that complete clarity where I wasn't disturbed by thoughts or feelings. And when I say disturbed, I'm not saying, everyone gets like dark thoughts or thoughts that sort of irk you a little bit, but also, thinking about the grocery list, or I need to get up, or, you're completely in the moment. You've got no thought there. I kept getting like, a few seconds, maybe once every few days, that was happening a bit just after TM. And I was like, that is like nothing else I've ever felt before. Again, as we said, your mind tries to figure out how that happened, and then you're straight back to what it feels like, the beginning of the road. But then the more you do TM, and like, as you said, it's just been over a year now, those glimpses have become a part of my life. And I can feel that sort of blissfulness, that space where there's no thoughts, no feelings in the background of my life. And as I said, I was feeling a bit anxious coming here, and then the thoughts sort of took over. Then they sort of recede back into that space, which is really lovely. So yeah, started feeling relatively peaceful in the first few weeks. That peacefulness then grew over the first 6 months, and then it's just remained. It would come and go, but now it's become a mainstay in my life, and it's just great. It's great.
Did you, before you learnt, did you have any reservations about, because obviously there's an investment of time and of money, did you have any hesitations?
I did, yes. And I didn't say this early on, but since I think I saw the ad on Facebook, and I did sit on it for maybe a few weeks, and I was sort of back and forth in my mind. It's like, should I do this? Don't really know a lot about it. And then obviously that led me to the introduction session. I think I thought it was mystical and fantastical, and it's just like, what's it? It's like a third dimension.
How did you think that it was mystical or fantastical? Where did you get that idea from?
Well, I'm not very religious, and I thought it was tied to religion in some way. And I thought, I don't want to worship a god in that regard. I don't really have the patience for, and obviously, I completely respect anybody who has other views and opinions of me. But for me, like, the Bible, like those sorts of stories, I was raised as Catholic, and I didn't really get on with it, really. Get on with it, but it just didn't wash over me as much. And I didn't really want to, for me to begin with, I thought TM felt like it's a religion, and I need to do these certain rituals every day, and I need to maybe there isn't a temple, but there's other ways to be a true TM, or I need to do this and do that, and so I was turned off the whole idea, really, of following what I thought was a religion. However, I kept an open mind at the same time, and the more I learnt about it, and especially the introduction session with Charles, he just laid it out there like clear and simple for me. And it's just like, I think even in the presentation, he said, it's not a religion. It's just here to enhance your life and improve your well-being. And that's something I really got on board with. And it's, we're talking about consciousness, and we're talking about a new way of looking at the world. You are probably I got these feelings of like, what, because I was set in my own ways, and my mind was like, no, the world is like this and the world's like that, and you get up and you go to work and you do this and you enjoy the weekends and all that sort of stuff. But actually, bringing in a new perspective of the world, you do have your back up against the wall, and you do think, what's this mystical way of looking at the world? Like, and you've got every right to feel a bit hesitant when someone or something comes along and tells you, actually, no, there's another way of looking at this. And you think, no, it's rubbish. It's just like stuff out of like Lord of the Rings or something like that. But I was hesitant. But, ironically, yeah, I was hesitant, but ironically, I just said to myself, let's just have a little bit of faith. Obviously, faith is very entwined with religion. I just had faith in myself that maybe this could work, and kept an open mind. And yeah, especially in the 4-day course with Charles, those feelings of and thoughts of like it being mystical soon sort of vanished. And it isn't mystical, it just is. you can't give it a name, but for me, yeah, it's not, I don't think it's mystical in any sense of the word.
And when you mentioned when someone tells you that there's a different way to look at life, and you know, you're a bit like, oh, I know everything already, kind of a thing. What was the different way? Is there a different way to look at life? Is that what having meditated a year now, do you feel that there is, or a different way?
I feel like the different way was the way I'd been looking at it for the first 32 years of my life. And actually TM helps you see the way it really is without a bunch of thoughts and opinions of your mind dictating what you do, and fear coming up and influencing your decisions. Actually, TM is the way I think life should be, and that's completely now in this time, this present time, and being able to make decisions for yourself without being influenced by fear. And I think love is the way. I don't want to get too deep, but love is the way, and I think TM really shows you what love is, and love isn't influenced by fear or anger, or that I want this, or desire. Like, love is just here, and it's how love, TM has opened up that love inside of me, and now that influences my decision making, such as the decision to come here. I think, as I said, a year ago, fear would have influenced that decision. I wouldn't be here talking about it. So yeah, I forgot your question. What was your question?
It was about the two, you know, potentially a different way ways to look at life.
Yeah, I think going back to what TM has done for me, it's helped me realise how conditioned I've been throughout my whole life. And that starts all the way back from when, you know, your first 10 years are the most important years, transformative years of your life. And then you go to school and you'll learn to do this or that, and you need to get good grades because you need to get a good job, because if you don't, then you're going to do this and do that and be in prison or go be homeless. And that's just fear mongering. There's a lot of fear. And TM helps you realise that actually, no, that's not the way life should be. So it's really weird. A year and a half ago, I would have said that TM is just this mystical, two alternative way of looking at the world. Year and a half later, it's the only way to look at the world.
You mean it's given you a more truthful way to experience the world?
Yeah, truthful is bang on.
Yeah. Less encumbered by do's and don'ts and fear and sort of societal conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I like to think that every situation you have in life is always neutral. It's your thoughts that shape your response to it. So something that could really make you miserable could make someone really happy. Well, how does that work then? There's got to be one right answer, and the right answer is that it's always neutral. TM breaks down his thoughts and opinions, and something like, you know, maybe waiting in the airport, it used to make me so miserable. I used to hate it. I'm not a fan of flying anyway, but you know, I was on a plane recently, and I just saw it in a completely different way. And rather than just sitting there in a grump in the waiting room, just, oh God, oh, it's late. Oh, what am I going to do? It's like, just let it be. You know, what are you going to do? Spend the next 3 hours in a tantrum, or just make it a bit easier for yourself, put something on Netflix, or you're able to see it from a different perspective. And as I said, you know, I could be in a tantrum in the waiting room. The next person could say, oh, thank God, I've got 3 hours to catch up on this work, or, oh, I can finish that book that I've done. The situation is always neutral, and TM has helped me realise that, rather than it, you know, me being influenced by my mind, which has its own thoughts about the situation.
I love that, because that's empowering, isn't it? Because until you realise that circumstances are neutral, you feel that they have the power over you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But once you realise that it's about your thinking, then you have agency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're not manipulated by your thoughts anymore. Your thoughts aren't in the driving seat. Your thoughts are there. And yeah, I'm not going to say I was in the waiting room and I didn't have any thoughts and I was loving life in the waiting room. I wasn't, but I wasn't completely miserable either. Like, your thoughts are there, and I recognise my thoughts. That it's not the ideal situation, but me personally, we're able to see those thoughts, and we're going back to what we said about TM creating that space where those thoughts exist, but you don't, they don't control how you feel about the situation, which is always neutral.
It's like you have options.
You do.
Yeah.
You always have options. You always have options.
Well, you might always have options, but you might not know that you have
Exactly.
options.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sort of frees you up from the binding influence. I think that's the expression they use in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, the binding influence of action. I never really, sounds a bit like, what does that mean, binding? But once you are unbound, then you realise, oh, that's what the binding influence is. When you, it's like you're in a prison, but you don't know you're in a prison.
Yeah.
Because you don't. That's Plato's. Isn't that Plato's allegory
Plato's
of the cave?
isn't it? Yeah. It's like Plato's cave. Yeah, absolutely. It's like growing that awareness.
Yeah.
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 And it's funny you say that, because I think I did a bit of philosophy at university, philosophy and film actually. We actually connected Plato's cave to, the Truman Show, the 1997
Jim Carrey
masterpiece.
Another
TMer, of course. And Plato's cave is all about you being in that cave and having those images projected, and you can be three different types of people. You can be that person who just watches the images and probably not happy, but you go up and down, you're just completely captivated by those images, those thoughts. Then you can be the person that leaves the cave and grows in that awareness and space and is able to see that projections are just those projections. Those thoughts are just your thoughts, they're not you. And then you have that other person that goes out of the cave, doesn't like it, prefers the projections. You're the person that leaves the cave, and you're all right with that because you have that curiosity, and you're able to see those projections and thoughts for what they are, and they're just thoughts, they're just little stories.
If you had a friend or friends plural, who you felt could benefit, but they were on the fence for various reasons, what might you say to them to encourage them to hop over to the other side?
I've had quite a lot of friends who have been curious about what I've been up to with TM.
Have they noticed changes in you?
I think so. I think I've been, over the past year since practicing it, been a lot less reserved. I've got my energy back and I'm able to see them more and do more things with them. I think we live in an age where anxiety is rife and people are looking at ways to cope with that. And I do have friends that come up to me who have struggled with anxiety and are just finding out the best way to manage it. And some of them I've recommended them get in touch with a local TM teacher, go to an introduction session, and they have done that, but they've still been quite hesitant. I think going back to what I said about it feeling mystical and they're not quite sure, I would say off the back of that, just have an open mind. And we live in a really immediate, fast-paced world where we want everything right away. TM isn't going to fix everything. It's not an easy fix, and it's not an overnight fix as well. It's a journey. It's a lifelong journey. And I can safely say that I've never looked back, and I know TM is going to be with me for the rest of my life, and I'm extremely happy about that. If you are considering TM just to get rid of your anxiety, which you're going through right now, I don't think you're going to last, because as we said, Dwayne Johnson is always going to be there, and it comes with time. The more you practice TM, the more that space grows. So don't look at TM like it's going to be a quick fix. Look at it as in it's essentially who you are underneath all of this anxiety. And the more you do TM, the more you realise that. And then the less anxiety bothers you until, you know, as we said, it's here, but it's just an unwanted roommate that you're just going to have to get along with.
But I think that's great. And I would add one thing, which is, in my experience, it's not like meditating is a burden or hard work or a chore. Because sometimes to get to some place in the future, you might think it's going to be like tedious or unpleasant.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, personally and generally, it's an enjoyable thing to practice.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Is that your experience?
100%. I think it's the easiest and most enjoyable way to alleviate anxiety and to see the world with so much colour and life. We've been talking about this today. You're not doing anything. In fact, like everything you do in life is doing. You go to work and you go out and you eat and you do that and do this. Like, isn't it just the most beautiful thing to have that passport to not do anything? Yes, you know, you need to learn TM. It's a really enjoyable experience learning TM. But then it gives you that chance to, I don't need to do anything. It's just me and the mantra for 20 minutes. And then you can dive back into your doing, but you do it with a bit more, feeling a bit more comfortable within yourself. And that doing isn't influenced by anxiety anymore. So yeah, you know, it's thoroughly, and it's the best part of my day doing TM. And as you said, it is so enjoyable, and it should never feel like a chore. If it feels like a chore, you're probably doing it wrong, because it shouldn't feel like that. At the end of those 20 minutes, you should feel like you're at home and you've got ease within yourself. And I don't think anything really that you do, as in the verb do, gives you that sense of peace. Other than tea, probably. Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's really good, helpful. Thank you. I think you're really clear. You're very easy to listen to, and it sounds you're very clear in your mind as to how TM helps you and has helped you. And so I'm really grateful that you came down, because I think other people listening to this will be able to relate to it.
That's nice.
And also the fact that you've done lots of other meditations as well. It's like you're not new to the game, and so you're able to sort of have different experiences to compare, which again I think is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one more note on that is that, like, different meditations will suit different types of people, and I think they're all completely different. Yes, it's the act of meditation, but you just because you know an app or a YouTube video is or isn't working for you, it's not to say that TM, it shouldn't always be, you need to tie it with the same brush. Like, you know, as I said, just keep an open mind and see where it leads. Yeah. And that's all you can do.
Super duper. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming all the way down to the sea.
Thank you, Mark.
Tripping out from the big smoke. So I hope you have a nice afternoon this afternoon.
Brilliant.
Trundling along the beach.
I'm sure we will.
Having fish and chips.
Yes. Yeah, fish and chips.
Brighton fish and chips. And anything else to add?
I don't think so, Mark. I just want to say it is an absolute privilege to be here. I think we spoke before the recording. You were in one of the first videos I watched about TM before I'd even begun it. And to be here now, it's almost like a full circle moment. So I am actually really so grateful, just trying my hardest not to fangirl. But it is a real big privilege to be here. So thank you so much, Mark.
Amazing. Thank you. Have a great day. Super.